What's going on, guys? Welcome to this live stream. It's kind of an impromptu live stream because today we're going to be checking out the Industry 4.0 Clubhouse. Funny enough, Clubhouse, for those of you guys don't know, is a new application that is on iPhone only. And so we've kind of been following it. It was released January, and there was been a popular Clubhouse, like a club on Clubhouse that's all about Industry 4.0. And I first got this iPad actually for my daughter, so I downloaded. Actually, I downloaded YouTube Kids first, but let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen here. And we're going to go ahead and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going into. Let's see if you guys can see this here. Can you add this to the screen? There we go. There's the Clubhouse app. Here is the industry. Okay, this is working. I had this idea today to do this, and I did get approval from Vaughn. He's like, yeah, we need to be collaborating with Industry 4.0 Clubhouse. So today's topic is actually going to be pretty interesting. It's called Developing an Industry 4.0 Workforce with Annie McGregan. And you guys are going to be getting my live reaction to using Clubhouse for the very first time. So I actually have never even joined a room. So hopefully I can figure this out pretty quickly. There we go. Join the room in progress. So when the audio comes through, let me know in the YouTube chat if you guys can hear the Clubhouse. We have them every day, Monday through Thursday, 12:30 Eastern Central Time, 11:30 Central Time, Monday through Thursday with various topics around Industry 4.0. Check out our website, www.industry4.0club.com. And also you can look at our Slack, our Discord channel, or no, Discord, /chat with the after Industry 4.0 website name. So yeah, we will be able to open up the space later for questions. If you guys feel free to come up, just make questions, a little bit specific, not too long, and just be courteous of everyone's time and honor. And thank you everyone for being here. We love having you guys come back, and we hope and encourage you guys to do so in the future. And I will hand it to you now. Thank you.
Thanks, Clara. That was an amazing introduction, and I really appreciate it. You did so good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so my name is Jen Wyatt, and I am a founder of the Industry 4.0 Club. I'm joined today with Yen and Myra. They are the founders of our club, and we have a special guest for you guys today, Anya from the Eastern Regional College. Is that correct? Did I get that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Perfect. And she dedicates her professional time in teaching and instructing future engineering students. So we wanted to invite her today and thank her for coming on and talking about the skills gaps that we're seeing on a worldwide basis when it comes to manufacturing and how we can move forward and hopefully close those skills gaps. So I will kick it off with a question, if that's okay with you guys. But the biggest question I think when it comes to skills gaps, where are we lacking? What skills gaps are you guys seeing in your workforces, and where's the biggest gap to you guys? Anya, would you like to start us off?
Hi everybody. I'm dialing in from Northern Ireland. So very kindly introduced me there. One of the things in discussion with one of my colleagues that we have found with the workforce preparing for Industry 4 at this point in time is that a lot of the basic skills are missing. So we have lots of students coming through doing higher level qualifications, coming out with degrees, but don't have those basic skills and basic knowledge to allow them to really use the tools, techniques under the whole Industry 4 umbrella. With things like bench fitting, turning, milling, basic electronics, even basic programming skills, quite often they just don't have them because they don't learn the finer detail as part of their higher education or degree courses. So that's the kind of thing that we've been looking at trying to address in the UK and Ireland lately.
We see a lot of that too, I think, on our end. I know our biggest push with some of the tech colleges I've worked with have been with maintenance technicians. We have a really short supply of those. I think it's finally getting a little bit evening out a little bit, but it seems like.
All right, guys, if you guys are just joining now, what we're doing is we're checking out the Industry 4.0 Clubhouse. This is my first time actually using this app. It's like an audio only app where kind of join in, listen to conversation. And here's what we got. We got a developing an Industry 4.0 workforce with Annie McGregan. And yeah, check it out.
What are you guys seeing?
So we're definitely seeing a skills gap in manufacturing in the U.S. today. It's millennials coming in. The two sides to this. One is, first of all, they're new on the technology, and they also specifically want to see new technology. And when you go into a lot of manufacturing plants today, there's not a lot of new technology. It's not on your iPhone. It's not on your iPad. You still got to use existing PCs, whatever. And so there's one part there where it's not that they don't have the skill, but they just want to go a little bit faster. And then you see that you have, especially as you mentioned on the maintenance side, you have maintenance techs that's been there for years, and then suddenly they leave. And now you got to figure out how do you fill that knowledge gap that they have been maintaining, a whole bunch of equipment. They know exactly how they ran. They could almost like listen to them when there's something wrong, right? And so now you're losing that. And so, and it's hard to replace. So that there are definitely manufacturers today that start to kind of preempt that by figuring out how can I collect that knowledge? How can I get somebody to maybe shadow these people? But from our perspective, being a equipment provider, the way we kind of try to help solve that is on the services side. So what we do is looking at how can we help our customers by connecting to the equipment. So instead of having to send somebody out, we can call them up and tell them, hey, here is what's wrong with your machine and here's what you got to fix. And then there's activities going on. We're not completely there yet, but we're experimenting with some of that stuff where you can, with like augmented reality, you can take an iPad and put it up in front of the machine, and then the tech from the vendor can look at that and can mark up on the iPad what valve they have to turn, or what button they have to press, or what component they have to take out and replace. And with some of those new technologies today, that makes it a lot easier for the person that has that gap, that doesn't know exactly what's going on, make it easier for them to be able to get that help and understand what they need to do to fix an issue or to maintain the equipment. But we're definitely looking at this, and that's one of our biggest reasons for the IoT initiative or IoT initiative that we put in place 3 years ago, was really because we saw this skills gap, and at the time you really can't solve a problem over the phone very easily. And so trying to come up with how can we, with remote connectivity, understand what's going on, and how can we help somebody on site that doesn't know as much about our equipment to actually fix it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think that millennials, Gen Z, I think they're kind of coming into the workforce and they're kind of expecting all of this technology, because I think in so many other maybe professions, but even like your personal life, right? I mean, we're all sitting here on our smartphone. So they're kind of expecting more adaptations of technology that they would use every day within their workplace environment. And I don't think that they're always seeing that. And, that's definitely an interesting and very important perspective. Additionally, I think this is a really good place to interject with your last point. How do we bridge the skills gap? How do we show them the skills and train them? This is a really good spot to interject the importance of apprenticeships. And I know that the tech colleges that I've worked with in the past they had a program called Skyfane. And that was a really, it just started a couple of years ago, but it got a lot of support from the local area employers on the training and development aspect, because they were able to sponsor a student to come in and get the skills that they needed through the technical college and the degree and everything. But then they were also doing kind of OGT, right, on the job training. So what ways do you guys see apprenticeships and take advantage of those types of programs and work with those? Anya, you guys do apprenticeship programs, is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So we have actually 2 levels of apprenticeship programs. We have some of our kids in Northern Ireland leave school at 16 and will enter into what is a level 3 apprenticeship program. So again, very similar to the scheme that you're describing, that they will get on the job training and then they'll be in the college 1 day a week for the more academic side of things, for their we refer to it as their technical certification. We also have a higher level apprentice program, which is more like that, the one that ties in with a foundation degree, which I think is more in line with what you had mentioned just now. They're actually, we're really pushing hard on the higher level apprenticeships at the minute. And we run a mechatronics higher level apprenticeship at the minute in our college. And the real aim or the emphasis there is to try and get some of that, the hands-on, and back that up with the theory, so on and so forth. They're also bringing in the knowledge that they have, that they're gaining from industry. And there's quite a lot of peer learning going on in the classroom as well then, because they're talking about how things are done in their place, and they're discussing the differences, and they even may occasionally go away with ideas on how to change things within their own organisation. So it's a really, really powerful programme. But we have the same issues as what Jan was talking about as well, is that, lots of kids are coming out with 4-year degrees at the minute, and they don't expect that then when they walk into a factory that it's going to be grubby and grimy and still quite analog, old-fashioned machinery in it, so absolutely 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Yes, and Anya, so to get a little bit of clarification too, I know that our audience, just looking through, we're all over the world, so this is amazing. Could you give a little bit more clarification on your degree programs there? Like, I know that our technical degree here is that's considered like a level 5, you said in our conversation yesterday. So I think it's interesting to get kind of the different aspects and cultural aspects of like the different degree programs that we have. Could you kind of cover those?
Yeah, certainly. So within the technical college or the vocational college, we deliver what I believe is equivalent to like an associate's degree or a 2-year degree in the US, which we refer to as level 5. If they were to go to a more academic university, they'll study to level 6. And then a master's is a level 7 program, and anything after that then is level 8 then. So hopefully that helps to clarify.
Hello, thank you. I'm looking at the Discord channel on the back, and I did just want to refresh the room since we're 15 minutes in. Hello, everyone, and welcome. So we are today, thank you everyone for joining the conversation for Skills Gap with our special guest, Anya McGrehon. So she is a professional, and she is really passionate. She's a professional who has been doing this for a range of transferable skills during her past 20 years. She's passionate about education at all levels, and she's a huge believer in lifelong learning. We really appreciate your contributions. We do have a Discord channel. I am about to answer one of the questions I saw out there. If you want to ask, please follow the club, because we have conversations like this Monday to Thursday, 11:30 Central Time, 12:30 Eastern Time. And so one of the questions I'm seeing in the back, someone asked if where's my Discord? Anya, someone asked, are there things that you are seeing in Ireland that are working? I guess I need more context for that, but I'm assuming it's what we were talking about earlier. Let me know if you need any more clarifications or if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I suppose if I take it from the point of view of identifying the skills gaps, trying to actually address them. One of the programs that my colleague Darren is working on at the minute is a project that is across the UK and Ireland, and they're actually researching along with industry what some of those gaps that we have with under the Industry 4 umbrella, and trying to actually identify what training we need to provide to plug those gaps. So they are working on curriculum, looking at what equipment, what even software, whatever it is that we need to actually have in the colleges. What does what do the courses, the curriculum look like? So that we can actually address that in the next 3 to 4 years.
We have courses on that.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Jen, do you have anything that you would like to add either on apprenticeships or to our audience's question? What do you see that's working?
Yeah, I have a comment and a question for Anya. So first comment is that I mentioned before that we try to help our customers with their skills gap, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a skills gap either. So we have of course service technicians, and they're constantly changing as well. We have some very experienced technicians that retire. That has some expertise on some of our complex equipment, and then we got to kind of fill those gaps. And then we have a general just different areas of the country. There's a lot of changeovers, et cetera, and that of course makes it a little bit harder for sometimes always. But so there's something there for us as well to try to solve to kind of fill those skills gaps. And in that question for Anya, just so that there's definitely some areas of trying to fill a skills gap with training and education that's straightforward. So, for example, like in the U.S., there's been a lot of talk about the mining industry, right? That there's less work going on in that field in the U.S. and trying to figure out where can people go. But in an area, for example, like a specific area like an OEM's service technicians, whatever, is there programs where there's some kind of funding, and I'm not talking about the US, I'm talking about in Ireland right now, but we can talk about general as well. But is there areas where you can say, well, I'm not part of this big program of kind of changing the expertise of a whole group of people, but I do have a gap here. And is there ways that you can work with universities to try to see how you can fill those specific gaps, either by some kind of funding, support, et cetera?
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate that we do have we have a lot of government funding to help address issues with trying to build the economy in Northern Ireland. So one thing, for example, is that we have innovation, what are referred to as innovation vouchers, that can be used if a smaller organisation is trying to maybe bring in some kind of new equipment or software, that we can actually provide training and help them to make that transition. So they will actually be awarded a grant towards that. We have also Invest NI, which is Invest Northern Ireland, will provide money and support for larger organisations, especially if they're looking at growing their workforce. Lots of different things that they will help to find money for as well. So I think that really helps. And the colleges are very much involved in that, because we will actually provide the expertise, we provide the training. We've had quite a big bit of work done in the last 3 to 4 years around Siemens controls training, which has been fully funded as well for those smaller organisations. And I think we've put probably close to 200 service technicians through Siemens training in the last few years. So we're fortunate where we live.
So that them flashing their microphones means they're applauding these hosts right here.
I want to welcome Nadine and Dr. Hassan to the stage here. But before I do, I just have one more question for you guys. Here in the States, we have what's called a training dollar that's tied down through the Department of Labor. And it's dedicated to employers that are looking to either increase their workforce or reskill and retrain their current workforce. One of the biggest issues when I was working in workforce development that I faced was trying to get everybody at the table between your economic development and your tech colleges and your employer, your companies, and really pin down and identify what the best use of the training dollar would be, and then how to make it more accessible to a wider range of people. I think that was a huge challenge that we dealt with, and we're probably still dealing with. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Do you have any suggestions on how we can kind of all come together to identify how to make the best and most efficient use of any kind of funding that we're lucky to get? This is Anne. I'm done speaking. I can pass it on either to Anya or Yen.
So I'm just thinking about it from the point of view of the UK in particular. I suppose it's in some ways it's a frustration whenever you are part of the training organisation who's delivering the training, but the funding that we get or that the companies get to use with us is fairly highly regulated. So they have to justify what they're going to use that money for upfront. So that means then that they have to really be able to show that they have a need. And I think that probably helps to really ensure that it's used in the right area. And I don't know if that is really what you're after, Anne, but that certainly seems to work for us.
Yes, that's amazing. We have some qualifications in place too. And they kind of have to go through a process as well. And I think, but at the same time, I feel like that gets cumbersome for them on the company end. And it sometimes it backfires as a way of others, it's the process can be a little tedious. Yen, what are your thoughts?
Sorry.
I can go real quick. I did see one question back in the Discord channel, and I was gonna ask Anya. So someone said, how can they do better at bridging real life experiences with companies, startups to generate innovation? And I also have a follow-up question, but let me know if that was clear enough. I kind of said it a little butchered, but
hopefully I'm answering this question. I think one of the benefits that we have in the colleges in Northern Ireland is that a lot of the staff, the training staff, the lecturers have industrial experience. They have an industrial background, which really, really helps. So for example, myself, I've been working in the college for 7 years, but I come from an industrial background. I worked in industry for 16 years. So I think that really, really helps because we can understand what some of those issues are. Another element or another part of our organisation is that we have a business development team who really specialise in learning about softwares and systems that they can then sit with people from industry who are needing upskilling and needing that training and provide one-to-one support on that. So I think that answers the question.
No, it did. Thank you. I think that's
Yeah.
a great way to answer that question. I really do think that, I mean, I value a lot my community college education after my bachelor's. And I wanted to ask, how can someone like me get involved in potentially, getting more education in this? Because I've looked into, different programs to go into, and this is amazing. I honestly have preached to everybody, like, go to my community college, get a GI certificate program for like so many benefits. How can I, just like anybody else in the audience, can you potentially get this kind of education, or is it restricted for certain people? I want to know, for myself, for anybody else who wants to pass this along to anybody else.
So I'll take that, Myra. This is Anne. So it depends. So here's the frustrating thing about funding and the way funding works through the government or anything like that here. I can't speak for Yen or Nadine or anybody that's not US centric. But the frustrating thing about the training dollar is that it is so cumbersome in the policies, which does keep it safe to a certain degree as far as misuse of funds and things of that nature, but it's just not very accessible. So they've done several different funding options for training, skills training, that kind of thing. One is, of course, the option when you're just graduating high school and you go to college or university or whatever, and you apply for the federal Pell Grant money in that aspect. The training dollar that I'm referring to is very specific to reskills training and upskilling. So it's only available through like an on-the-job training program where the employer has to come in and either do like a sponsorship of wages, or they have to come in and prove that they have a need, like they're adding to their workforce in a significant way. And then there's another option if you are out of school, and this is probably more up Anya's alley, but if you're coming out of school and you want to go to a technical college and you want to pursue a technical degree, then there's training for that in different methods. Again, like pre-collegiate, where you apply through the Pell Grant money, but then also sponsorships from employers as well. So that's more of a dual system. And I think that Nadine had something to add to that conversation as well. Nadine, do you want to jump in?
Exactly. That's where I also came up on stage. Hi, everyone. First of all, welcome to Anya. I hope I'm not butchering your name too much.
That's perfect.
Nice to have you here, and welcome to Clubhouse. Thanks for sharing your time with us here tonight on this very, very urgent and top of mind topic for all of us in the industrial space. So maybe just to share some experience, I spent quite some time of my life over in Asia, located out of Singapore. And most of you will know Singapore is a very small country. It's a city-state. It's also obviously a very rich country. But Singapore has a huge problem in that they have a drain in the technical skills, and that results in a drain in how much is contributed to their GDP in terms of actual physical production, manufacturing of goods. So 95% of their GDP is provided through services, so not actual tangible goods. And that also puts a country at a certain risk. So a couple of years ago, the government made the decision to ensure that a minimum of 5% of GDP contribution needs to result from manufacturing and the production of physical goods. But also that should be contributed by local companies, not only the global players. There are a lot of global players who have their regional headquarters in Singapore because it's a very safe country to operate in that entire region. But they also want to ensure that the local industry remains at least on that steady level. So the Singapore government then went and looked at some best practices model, and they actually ended up in Germany. So I was there working for a German mid-sized company at the time. And in Germany, historically, what made the manufacturing sector so strong is that whole sector of SMU, small and mid-sized family-run companies. These companies also needed to ensure historically that they brought in new talent. So they actually developed many, many years ago this system of the dual studies, which is actually an integrated academic and practical 3-year program where the student will then also have a full acknowledged bachelor's degree with a technical focus, and that in Germany by now also is rated as equal to a university degree, academic degree, bachelor degree. So there's no differentiation of, going to university is better than going to technical college and having that level of degree. So what we then actually were tasked with is bringing this model, introducing this model to Singapore, working with the polytechnical colleges who also at that time had the brain drain because everyone wanted to be in finance, in insurance, my Singapore, collaborators deemed the white collar jobs. No one wanted to work in manufacturing at the time. So myself as a representative from my company, but also my market partners, it was 7-8 German companies at the time. We would work with the Singapore government as well as the polytechnics, the technical colleges to introduce this program, bring on students into this existing structure that all the German companies have established, and lift up these students in order to provide them also with an actual career perspective. I mean, there were a lot of perfect conditions to launch this program, of course. It was actually easy for us to slot ourselves in, but I found that because it was so perfectly thought through, I found that to be really actually impactful on the level that it has to be impactful. Thank you. This is Nadine, and I'm done speaking.
Hello, thank you everyone. I'm just going to refresh the room real quick because we are at half the top of the hour. So thank you everyone for joining our conversation around Skills Gap today with our special guest.
All right, guys. So I'm going to refresh the room here. What we're doing is we're getting my like initial live reaction to not only the Industry 4.0 Clubhouse, but Clubhouse in general. I've never been on Clubhouse before today. So I'm sharing this on my iPad here. If you're wondering how I'm doing this on QuickTime. You know, it's pretty interesting. A lot of people are coming and leaving. You know, there's some good, like interesting points, like when they're talking about manufacturing in Singapore. The government has made a mandate that a minimum of 5% of GDP needs to come from manufacturing of physical goods. Makes sense. So I'm going to get back into this live stream here, and yeah, we'll check it out.
4.0 and related technologies, working with a lot of companies actually implementing Industry 4.0. But at the same time, I do teach at Georgia Tech. So as someone that is between academia and industry, I can see, you know, in real examples how the situation is about basically preparing the next generation for basically Industry 4.0 and you know, those technologies that are continuously developing. So actually, this topic is so interesting, and I'm so passionate about that because anyway, we need to prepare the next generation for Industry 4.0, and you know, but as you know, universities and colleges are not basically keeping up with the advances in technology and all of those requirements. Probably those programs worked very good like 30, 40 years ago, but as you know, it's not so efficient and effective. So we need some sort of programs that quickly, but also fundamentally prepare people for those kinds of job as we look at future of job. So because this topic is so interesting, just to, in terms of implementation of it specifically, because Industry 4.0 itself is still developing, and there are a lot of technologies involved, like IIoT, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, data science, augmented reality, and many more, right? Buzzwords. It's a very complex topic, but in terms of implementation and getting, you know, those machines basically work, to improve productivity and efficiency and make the situation better. I found these topics very interesting. That's why I started sharing a lot of information and data about these things on Twitter. And it's interestingly got a lot of attention from universities, from industries. That's right now my Twitter account has more than 85,000 followers. And that just shows there is a huge need about this. And actually a lot of, I didn't expect this, but it happened. A lot of those companies, like for example, Analytica, that are looking at people's and their activities on social media, they have identified me as one of the top 100 influencers in this area. So it's funny. Anyway, to look at the real fact here, I had a question about these programs that you have. It's really great to hear that there are a lot of programs and you know people working on this. But one specific question that I have is in terms of like technicalities, for example, for these programs that you have, what students and what people learn. That can you specifically talk about those subjects that you have basically, or you are thinking about developing, that basically bridge the gap between education system and industry requirements. So about industry, because there are a lot of programs already. So there are a lot of colleges, universities, other online courses. It's just everywhere, right? So, but we don't want to go back to 100 years ago and do the same thing again and again, because I don't think anyway that education system is really for today. It was not designed for today, as you know. It was designed for industrialization, and you know, just having people going to college, learn and study for 4 years. Then they were good with those skill sets and those training that they got to work for in industry for like 40 years or 50 years, and that was that they were good with that. But as we know, that doesn't work anymore. So you need to continuously learn. You need to continue, even though you are expert in the area, if you do not keep up with advances, like on a really monthly basis or even sometimes daily basis, you are probably somehow not in a good situation. So again, to summarize, my question is how we can address this problem, that effectively and efficiently we prepare people to come and learn those topics that they can really, with a little or some kind of training, because anyway, industry always prefer to train people, even though you get the best training in your programs. So how we can bridge this gap, and thank you for letting me to talk about this.
Thank you for your insight, Dr. Hassan, and it's very relevant. From on our back channel server, there was some questions around exactly that area that I think both you and Anya has some expertise in. Is what are some of the skills that new college grads and et cetera needs to start thinking about getting and acquiring within this Industry 4.0? What are some of the Industry 4.0 skill sets that will be needed going forward, and that you are thinking about from an education perspective that you are going to prepare for them? So, Anya, I don't know if you want to. I know you talked a little bit about the Siemens activities that you had, which makes a lot of sense. But there's a lot of other stuff around Industry 4.0, around data scientists and cloud application development and MQTT and all that kind of stuff. So just wanted to see what's kind of on your list that you would be working on, trying to make sure it becomes part of the curriculum of new manufacturers, interns, etc.
So I suppose one of the things that we talk about quite a lot is that whilst we're pushing hard on the Industry 4 side of things, one of the biggest issues that we see is that a lot of the organizations in the UK still don't do as much with Industry 3 as what they could be. So even things like understanding SCADA, things like that first, we think is one of the building blocks, so that then they can learn more and apply more of the Industry 4 technologies.
Sorry, I have to interrupt right there. I would probably disagree. I would say you need to forget everything you know about SCADA, PLC, HMI. You need to look at it from a new, fresh perspective. But this is just, I digress.
Simulations, so that in the future we can look at digital twins. I suppose I'm not involved enough in the specifics on the Industry 4 to really give it a full and thorough answer. My colleague Darren,
why are you talking about it?
Apologies.
Thank you so much for that, Anya. Maybe I can also share some personal experiences here, while I didn't go as far as actually.
Sorry, I definitely want you guys all to go join the server, check it out. But, she just said, I don't know much about Industry 4.0. Then why is she, on stage speaking at it from a position of authority? So I don't know. The only thing when I said when I do this live is that if there was something I wanted to comment, Vaughn's like, hey, if there's something that, you need to comment on, just make sure you address that. Because, we're trying to share the right information, not just a bunch of buzzwords that someone who self-identifies as someone who doesn't know about Industry 4.0. Sorry, I'll get back to this. But other than that, there's a lot of good content too.
And said, okay, show me your classes. Yeah, and I designed an individualized curriculum and came basically up with a whole new study program that consisted of actually basic stuff as well. Yeah, not even going into the whole fancy Industry 4, IoT, AI, whatever, but actually the basics. Yeah. Just had a phone call come in. Software engineering, SAP skills, ERP, also consulting, yeah, baseline consulting skills, understanding business processes, but then also the hardware side, instrumentation, automation, sensing technologies, controlling technologies, and just picked the existing, because the courses were there already. They were just not for my personal requirements in the format, in the right package. So yeah, we were able to have that liberty because of our close working relationship with the college to actually go ahead and do that. And now the result is I actually don't have the full list. I need to look at my old documentation. But I found that so exciting and so inspiring to be able to do that, and now have our young professionals who are working in our company now. They've just completed their 3-year program successfully, working in our company and being equipped with a very diverse set of skills. Thank you. This is Nadine, and I'm done speaking.
That was amazing, Nadine. This is Anne. That's a really great idea. Can I ask, did you do that from the company perspective, or did you work with the technical colleges?
Yeah, I worked with the technical colleges. So the rule actually is, this is a good point, Anne, while we are sponsoring the dual studies program, the students actually also get a salary while they are part of our programs, and we also co-fund their habitation if they're not living close, if they're not able to stay close to the college because they're located somewhere else. There is no obligation for the student to stay on with us after they've completed the program. And I looked at it really from a macro perspective, because I knew at that time already that the next gens need that diverse set of skills, and it's so important to have both areas covered. Thank you, Anne. This is Nadine, and I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Nadine. I mean, that's incredible, and I appreciate you coming up and sharing that with us. And I love you. I wish you would come to the States and fix us, and help us with our training goals. Mike, I see you've joined us. Do you want to hop in?
Yeah, thanks, Anna. I wanted to ask Anya a question. You know, in the U.S., you may be aware, in the U.S., we've created a cultural priority around getting a bachelor's degree, or what maybe we could call level 6. And so what's happened in many cases is level 5 of this associate's degree really requires a good bit of marketing and reaching out into the secondary schools, the high schools, and even the middle schools and elementary to help people be interested in those sorts of that educational progress and those sort of careers in industry. Maybe you could talk for a moment about what's going on in Northern Ireland relative to that topic. Are you finding it difficult to attract people to your level 5 degrees?
Yeah, really good question, Mike. Yeah, we have exactly the same problem here. And there's a lot of pressure from the school systems pushing kids towards the university, the 6-year or the level 6 qualifications. We also have lots of parents who are, it's that, because traditionally in this part of the country, people who are the generation before me didn't go to university. So there's the family pride thing as well, puts a lot of pressure on kids to go to university. So we do push hard on our marketing on social media in particular, trying to sell our programs. We actually have partnerships with some of the local schools whereby they can actually do some of their level 3 qualification with us. So that 17, 18 year of age. So I don't know if that's high school in the US, where they'll actually do a couple of subjects in school, but they'll also come and study with us all, as well. So this morning, I had kids in who are maybe doing a technology course and a maths course at school, and then they're coming in and they're doing engineering with us as well. So they've got that nice combination of, you know, strong maths, physics, technology, maybe IT, along with the engineering, and some really, really good combinations. So when they're with us, we take every opportunity to sell the program that we deliver. I think as well, the courses that are have really kicked off for us are the higher level apprenticeships. We've put a lot of work into developing those over the last number of years, and we're oversubscribed every year for the last 3 years. And it's very similar to what Nadine was talking about, where they work in their sponsor organization 4 days a week, and they come to the college 1 day, and they will get their level 5 qualification that way, which is really, really powerful, because the kids don't have to pay for that. Their sponsor organization pays for it for them. So they get their education pretty much for free, and they're being paid to work at the same time. And the power of that is immense, in my opinion. So we push hard, but there still is a bit of a stigma and a thought process that level 6 qualification is superior. That you've gone to maybe a Russell Group university is the ultimate goal. You know, so there's still a bit of, I suppose, what we would call elitism or snobbery around it, which is most unfortunate.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's a really interesting challenge, and in fact, we know in our economies that we need a balance of skills and we need the range. And so I think one of the things that I certainly feel strongly about is that our cultures have to talk to that and express it and understand that. Otherwise, you know, we end up with gaps, and then we end up with holes in our economy. So thank you for the work you're doing. It sounds like it's filling a very important need in Northern Ireland.
I suppose as well, Mike, what we've got going for us is we're a much smaller geographical area. So it is in some ways a lot easier to affect change here. And industry have been pushing, and they have been shouting about the fact that, you know, they need people with specific skills. So in some respects, it's easier for us to make that flip. Whereas in the US, you know, some of your states are much larger than our whole country. So it's a challenge.
Thank you so much. So before passing it to Dimitri, I just wanted to thank Anya we do have 8 minutes until the hour. I wanted to thank Anya, our special guest, for answering these questions. If anybody else we are gonna close in 8 minutes. And I wanted to, Dimitri, do you have anything you want to add to the conversation? Anything you would like to chime in on?
Yes, thank you, Anne, for welcoming me. And I've been rambling a little bit on the Discord channel, but I would like to share, I would say, an observation and maybe I would say an opinion. You know me. I think that the most critical gap in skills, to my judgment, is in the understanding of IT and OT convergence. And I'll give you a couple of examples from my personal experience. I would say that the first one is I work for GE Digital. Some of you know that. And I joined when it was still a center of excellence with a few hundred people, mostly from IT in Silicon Valley. And we were actually clashing with the GE engineering OT culture. Didn't work very well. Then we created GE Digital as a conglomerate or as a combination of the Center of Excellence and the rest of information technology and operational technology in GE. It didn't work either. And it's mostly cultural because the people didn't really have the understanding of the both sides. The second example I give you is that when I look at what Industry 4.0 is doing, especially in Germany, and some of you might know the asset administration shell. And if you look really from a technology standpoint, this is, electronic data exchange, EDI, which is something we did in IT in the 90s, didn't work very well. And then we move on into service-oriented architecture, APIs, and protocols. So I believe that if we don't bridge this gap between understanding both IT and OT, we will not create the condition for people to truly innovate. And that's what I think is not really happening in Industry 4.0 right now. It's mostly optimization, but it's not really triggering creativity and disruption innovation, which is what education should do. Education cannot teach innovation and creativity, I believe, but it can create the conditions for that. So that's my observation, and I'm Dimitri, I'm done speaking.
Thank you so much, Dimitri. You speak from my heart as well. Yeah, I feel personally that this is also the single greatest inhibitor at this point in time for a wider spread adoption. Is exactly what you also stated, that cultural transformation. And that in fact takes much, much longer than the technical transformation. In my regard, the technology is all there. But the mindset shift is what we need to work on. And I think that's something that all of us here who are believers can also do, can participate in, on the smallest level, whether it's in the one-to-one conversations, whether it's constantly addressing what needs to change, and educating the other side of the table. And the foundation for that, when we circle it back to the educational element, which is at the core of this room today, is also opening up both sides to the students, showing them what it means to work in automation, giving them that understanding on the hardware side of the world, but also the understanding on the software side of the world. So that is an ongoing effort, 100%. I couldn't agree more with you. That's what's hindering us right now. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dimitri.
And I would just, refine that in a minute, in the sense that it's not just hardware, software. It's really software for OT and software for IT, because there are very fundamental differences between the. And that's actually really one of the key challenges, because when you talk to a lot of OT people, they'll tell you, "Oh, we've been using computers for decades." It's true that SCADA systems and historian and all those kind of things, but software was used to control the system. It was not used to understand really the machine. So my usual motto is that there is no Internet of Things. There's an Internet of Sensors. So we need to move to an Internet of Things, and it's really understanding the concept of software services as opposed to just data. Dimitri, I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Dimitri. This is Anne. We've got about 2 minutes left here. So before we close the room, I would like to offer everybody on stage here a chance to go around and give their quick synopsis of how can we, moving forward, how can we advocate to close the skills gap? What can we do to close the skills gap? Because Nadine, that struck a chord in me. Your last comment, we can all do something. So Jen, we'll start with you. What do you think we could do today or as a takeaway to close the skills gap?
My kind of readout of the meetings here, which has been very educational, very interesting, is I think the educational side of the skills gap is about maintaining existing equipment and the gap there. And so a lot of the education probably that the manufacturers feel that they need is more around Industry 3.0 than it is around Industry 4.0. And I think the Industry 4.0 impact in this is really potentially about removing the need for those skills by having manufacturers and OEMs build in technologies that will help the local manufacturers' techs better understand the equipment and help them understand what to do. And that's kind of how we fill that skills gap. Instead of and so that's why there's two parts of education. One is to educate in Industry 4.0 technology so that becomes the part of the design of new equipment and processes and product production lines, et cetera. And then there's still the need in some areas to train in like standard PLC programming and connecting and SCADA systems, etc. So that to me is more on the Industry 3.0 side. This is Jen. I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Yen. Yeah, I think that's definitely important. Myra, I know you're just getting started in your career and you're still a student, but from a student perspective, you know, what can we do to close the skills gap?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's something I actually think a lot about. I mean, I am very fortunate to have a degree, but I mean, I don't think you need a degree. And I did want to add something real quick. Someone said something really in the back Discord channel, BBQ King, you should have come up. He said that one large point that was missed is how the local manufacturers and companies' responsibility to work with local education systems to define the needs are missing skills students who are graduating and missing. And he said, why do we see many four-year engineering schools now adding robotics and PLC courses into their programs and less theory-based lectures? It's because manufacturers are putting pressure on the educators to create more education and skills around the current need. And I think that is so, you know, it goes back to not giving people that creativity and being able to have that as, you know, an outlet, and it's just more focusing on those needs. I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm also just more interested in learning about this. I do not have the question. I do not have the answer, but I really wish I did, because I find it incredibly important to help people from a lower socioeconomic background, people who are disproportionately disadvantaged, to be included in these in these topics and in these industries and in education. So I do not have the answer, but I really wish I did, and I hope that I figure it out if I continue coming to these conversations. Anya, Nadine, does anybody, Dr. Hassan, Dimitri, do you guys have any final thoughts, any closing comments?
I think that keeping that dialogue open between the manufacturing industry and the colleges is key to the success of trying to bridge those gaps, certainly here in the UK, and it sounds like it's the same where all you guys are coming from. So thanks for the opportunity, guys, to be involved today.
Yeah, I also wanted to thank you for having this event. I think this is very important. You are doing a great job, because if you really want to make this process effective and efficient, I think we need more conversation just to clarify what are our needs and our wants. And I think that requires more of this conversation from people from industry and those that are developing those kinds of programs. And also we should have some of those innovative, ideas that basically probably we can have some breakthrough also in these areas, so in terms of implementing those programs. So anyway, thank you again for having this event. I hope we can have this more of these events so that we can again more clarify our needs and define what we need, and then hopefully all of us together we can take this to the next step. Thank you.
Well, Dimitri, I did want to thank especially our special guest, Anya. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and thank you for giving us your time. One more time, she is passionate about education at all levels, and she's a huge believer in lifelong learning. So I want to thank everybody. We are 4 minutes past the hour, but I want to thank y'all for your time. Thank you for joining our conversation around the skills gap and on Industry 4.0 Club today.
All right, guys. So that was my first time on Clubhouse. Pretty crazy. Ask for permission to record and share a conversation. This is not something that we're going to do all the time. This is one of those areas, like I said, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So sounds like they're all cool. They said, feel free to share, tag us. So that's what Industry 4.0 is all about. It's about that Industry 4.0 mindset, the collaborative mindset. So thank you guys for joining in today's live. And yeah, let's see if we could get Walker, featured as a guest speaker on the Industry 4.0 Clubhouse, share information about the unified namespace, and yeah, how to help develop the Industry 4.0 workforce. If that's something you guys support, make sure to like this video, share it with a friend, and download Clubhouse if you're on Apple devices or you have an iPad laying around. Or, I don't recommend stealing your kid's iPad. I'm just doing this temporarily, so we'll see. All right, stop. We're gonna remove this, And looks like it just ends. So anyways, we'll see you guys on Tuesday next week, live Q&A, or tomorrow for the Digital Factory Mastermind. We're going to be doing digital transformation maturity assessment training. What's that? You know, you've heard us talk about DTMAs. We're starting that training tomorrow. You can always join later on and watch the recordings of our previous mastermind trainings. But if you're listening to this now and it's not Friday yet, April 30th, you know, I'll leave a link down below for you guys to check that out. Yeah, that is our training program. So thank you guys. See you guys next week. Peace.